Thank you. Chair recognizes now the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for holding this hearing. Appreciate your leadership and bringing attention to this to the panel. Thank you for being here. Ms. Rockwell, thank you. It's incredibly brave for you to address this committee, to share that story. When I was in the South Carolina General Assembly, I chaired the House Opioid Abuse Prevention Study Committee. We had 18 bills, record funding, a lot of great things, but we always started every field hearing with people who who were recovering, who had lost family members. To hear their stories, to hear your story today reminds me of that and how important it is to hear that story, that we start from the human element and that we remember the families back home who have suffered the most. The rise in fentanyl, I think the frustration that I have, at least up here, to the panel is that states and local governments have really tried to address this from an education campaign to prevention to treatment to law enforcement. That was not immune to the state of South Carolina either as we tried to pass legislation to address it. But the frustration that I have is that we can't actually deal, and states can't, as inventive as they are, and colleges and local governments, they cannot actually deal with the problem until we deal with the source, which is fentanyl, which is China, which is the cartels. To me, to look at the numbers in South Carolina, and of course this mirrors the country, in 2017, South Carolina saw a 312% increase in fentanyl-related overdoses. From 2019 to 2021. There was 178%. Nearly 69%, according to a South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control, 69% of all overdoses are related to fentanyl. Those numbers back up, and those have been increasing dramatically, whereas in 2017, only 36% of overdose deaths were related to fentanyl. So we have seen this problem exacerbated. We just visited Yuma, Arizona for a field hearing where we talked to hospital systems and ranchers and residents, and they're seeing it in their communities. And of course, as we know, every state, every local government, every community is a border town at this point, given the amount of fentanyl overdoses that are taking place. Mr. Chairman, at this point, I'd like to seek unanimous consent to put the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control overdose report into the record.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think from the perspective of the DEA, Mr. Maltz, what are some of the firsthand experiences that you've seen or heard of your agents, of the agents of the DEA dealing with drug smugglers? What are some of the experiences that they have had in the field?
Well, they're very frustrated for the lack of the support. Like I said, the Department of Justice put in added requirements to put people in jail that are killing our kids. But the real frustration that I've seen is kind of highlighted in the recent trial in New York and the conviction of Genaro Garcia Luna. He was the FBI equivalent in Mexico. The corruption is so systemic in Mexico that the cartels run the country. And now with the migrant smuggling, it's just overwhelming the resources on the border and throughout America. And so the reality is if you have a water leak in your house, the plumber comes, he shuts the main valve down. We have a fentanyl disaster in America, flooding the streets. We got to shut down the valve in Mexico. How do we do it? The best and brightest patriots in America, like some congressmen have already said, and offer support to the Mexican government to use technology to destroy these chemical production labs. Then we will see a disruption in the supply to this country. The frustration is that law enforcement is out there putting their lives on the line. They don't get the proper support. But more importantly is that it's just getting worse because the cartels are operating with impunity, working with China that wants to destroy America forever.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield the remaining balance of my time to you, sir.